Attempts to ban Imran Khan's PTI party continue in Pakistan. PTI headquarters have been raided and a top member arrested, while the government pursues more legal channels to wipe the party out of existence. Meanwhile, the UN has ruled Imran Khan's own detention illegal and arbitrary. But can and should the PTI survive? I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's newsmaker is Pakistan. For the country to progress, it must do away with the PTI's presence. That is the opinion of Pakistan's ruling PML-N, which is now trying to impose an all-out ban on the party of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. It's a continuation of a seemingly endless cycle of political adversaries ruthlessly trying to take each other down. And many Pakistanis will tell you the military is mostly to blame. But has it gone too far? And will efforts to ban a party that's won successive popular elections help or hurt Pakistan? Here's a look.
On Monday, hundreds of police officers raided the secretariat of former Prime Minister Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party and detained the Information Secretary, Rauf Hassan. It came a week after the government made a fresh move to ban the PTI party altogether and bring treason charges against Khan. In a press conference, the country's information minister cited the accusations against Khan of receiving foreign funds, leaking classified documents, and inciting violent protests.
If the people of this country want to develop, if the young generation of this country want to get employment opportunities, if this country wants to stand in the ranks of developed countries, then Pakistan and the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party cannot go together.
The announcement followed recent legal victories for the PTI and Imran Khan. A local court overturned Khan and his wife's conviction and 7-year prison sentence for illegal marriage. And days before that, the Supreme Court ruled that the PTI is a legitimate party and is therefore eligible to get reserved seats in national and provisional assemblies. That ruling means that Shehbaz Sharif's ruling coalition is denied an absolute majority. In the run-up to the February elections, Khan was barred from running, and the Election Commission, in a decision backed by the Supreme Court, banned the party from using its cricket bat symbol on the ballot. But PTI candidates running as independents defied the obstacles and won the most seats in Parliament. The PTI says the current attempts to ban the party are a reaction to what has been happening in the courts.
This has caused no worry to PTI. It is only demonstrated of what we have been trying to say earlier, that there is absolute fascism in Pakistan. There is an undeclared martial law in Pakistan.
Despite his acquittals in the biggest cases against him, Imran Khan remains behind bars, where he's been since August last year, while still battling a further 150 cases. In early July, the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention said Khan's detention is arbitrary and against international law. It also noted that Khan's legal troubles are part of a much larger campaign of repression against him and PTI.
The appropriate remedy would be to release Mr. Khan immediately and accord him an enforceable right to compensation and other reparations, in accordance with international law.
It all comes as Pakistan is in crisis on many fronts. The government has recently secured a $7 billion loan from the IMF in an attempt to revive the crumbling economy. It's also grappling with a rising number of deadly terror attacks, while these current moves against the PTI threaten to further destabilize the volatile country.
So can the country maintain stability while the government presses on with efforts to destabilize the PTI? Joining me now to debate that and more are from London, advisor to the former Prime Minister Imran Khan and former Pakistani Federal Minister Zulfikar Bukhari. And from Lahore, barrister and constitutional lawyer Asad Rahim Khan. And hopefully joining us later from Islamabad is a former member of the Provincial and National Assembly of Pakistan and currently working with the government, the PML-N, Maiza Hameed Gujjar. She'll hopefully be joining us in a few minutes' time. Well, Zulfi, then I just need to start with you today and ask what happened at your party's headquarters in Islamabad and to your information secretary. We hear he was arrested. We understand he's now been released. Tell us what went on.
No, he hasn't been released. Our headquarters were raided today morning by the police with absolutely zero legal references or charges. Our laptops, computers, servers were taken away. All the staff and the workers were locked into one room. Our acting chairman and information secretary were arrested. The acting chairman, Barrister Khan, was released. Rauf Hassan is yet to be determined where he is. And we're looking for him, and his family is obviously extremely worried. Again, there's no real reason for it. DJISPR gave some press conference, which I can't make head or feet of it. It's unclear what he was trying to say. But there's obviously a big crackdown, especially when it comes towards information, and in particular internationally. There's a big event going on tomorrow in the House of Lords, and all pressure has been done to kind of stop that, prevent that, and international media reporting all these things. So hence there's been a massive crackdown the last 2-3 days. 3-4 of our people have been arrested prior. My media coordinator, Hameed, Janjua, was also abducted from his home. No one knows where he was. And they put terrorism charges on him. So, as you can see, this is just another day really in Pakistan at the moment.
And Zulfi, you're in London right now. Will you go back?
At the moment, I'm advisor to Imran Khan on international media and everything. So when Imran Khan requires it, of course we will. But at the moment, there's arrest warrants for me. I'm declared an absconder, a terrorist, and I don't know what else, along with Imran Khan.
Okay. Asad, let me ask you why the PML-N sees the PTI as this threat. While a huge number of Pakistanis support the party, does the government seem to think they're, saving Pakistanis from themselves by cracking down on the PTI?
Well, I think the starting position is that the PTI has, at the bare minimum, won a plurality in the parliament. And to try and circumvent this reality, we've seen increasing levels of heavy-handedness and authoritarianism from this dispensation. There was mention of a party ban, which would lead to an existential threat to a party like the PTI. But because their own coalition partners, what to say of human rights organizations, opinion across the world as well, as a result of that, the government was forced to backtrack and then say that they would decide on this after further consultation, even though that would entail a full-blown verdict of dissolution by the Supreme Court. Now, this remains the largest party. It's registered with the Election Commission, and now it's been affirmed by the judiciary also that it has been returned the largest number of seats in the Assembly. So for the PML-N, which ostensibly is the ruling party, to act this way is a complete deviation from what is meant to be constitutionally a parliamentary democracy.
Right. Zulfi, you've noted, though, that for as obviously as you say, this is all illegal, it's against the law, the UN actually agrees. You say you want other parties, including Bilal Bhutto's PPP, to come forward and take a stand in the name of democracy. Even if they're not fans of the PTI, they need to do this for the sake of the country. But do you think they will? And if they don't, why aren't they? And to what consequence?
Well, look, ultimately, PTI is a threat to all the other parties because, as Barrister Asad just said, we're the largest party in the country. We're the most entrenched party across the country and the only national party left, really, within the country. So I don't really see them doing it or pushing too hard for it. But when I made the comment on PPP or Bilal Bhutto coming forward and saying something, only because he's a young leader and from his grandfather to his mother to him, always try to become the sort of saviors of democracy. So if they always vouch for being this democratic party that's sacrificed so much, then they should take a stand for the banning of any political party, not just the largest one, PTI. No, if you're a true Democrat, you want to actually have democracy. So how do you have democracy in a country when the largest party is being pushed to the wall continuously over the past 2 years?
Right. But Asad, Rahim, I mean, I guess maybe we've been ignoring the elephant in the room for a few minutes here, because most Pakistanis will tell you, as we know, and you probably agree, that it doesn't really have as much to do with the stance of various political parties as it does with what the military wants. So do both politicians and the Pakistani people want the military out of politics in order to resolve all of this? Or do they believe that the military's role behind the scenes keeps some level of security and discipline in Pakistan that makes them controlling the strings a better alternative?
No, this is precisely the core issue. It's been the core issue for very many decades in Pakistan's history. But we were seeing some incremental progress on the score. When the previous military dictatorship fell under Pervez Musharraf in 2008, there was this sort of awakening from Pakistan's mainstream parties that the only way forward is to make common cause against undemocratic forces. And that's what also led to a Charter of Democracy in 2006, and then a continuation of two clean electoral transitions, which was again unprecedented in Pakistan's political history. Over the past several years, though, what we are seeing is a complete delegitimization of political forces in which political parties have taken the lead at the behest of the military establishment. And when you have unity from the parliamentary parties, it goes without saying that the only force that is going to step into the void is the force that stepped into that void since at least 1958. So keeping that in mind, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf is obviously facing the brunt right now. But for this to become a long-term compact to ensure that Pakistan enters into some form of civilian supremacy, the political parties will have to unite and say that, well, these are the rudiments of any political system, that no interference can be broked, and for that they will have to stop essentially supporting each other and playing the other party off against the other.
Right.
But I will say at the end, though, that the military establishment's policy of playing each party off against the middle with itself in the middle is now facing unprecedented pressure from within public opinion. And that it now gives the parties an opportunity to drop the current oppressive campaign towards the PTI. It is the victim. I don't think you can conflate it with anything else right now.
Okay. Zulfi, quick final question. I mean, do you think this miserable cycle of kind of revenge and retribution can ever be stopped in Pakistan? Are you hopeful, optimistic, even in the midst of all what's happening now?
Absolutely. I mean, one, we always have to be optimistic, but I think there's a big opportunity, as Barrister Asad said, to press the reset button in this. Pakistan has very different dynamics. Hence, the military had such a big say in politics, in the private sector. They're probably the largest private sector institution in the country. So there is a chance to press the reset button into this. But what's happening now is, unfortunately, that your most organized and your most well-organized institution in the country, probably the most well-respected institution in the country, is starting to lose its support base within the people of Pakistan, which ultimately ends up damaging Pakistan and us, as political parties involved with it. No one wants to see the reputation of our armed forces go down in the masses. We always pray that it remains high, and that's a benefit for us and the country. However, until we start staying within our domains and pressing the reset button, there's no way that this could ever happen. And the only chance of that was happening was in our February 8th election. Election is the key to pressing the reset button. And unless you give back the stolen mandate or there are free and fair elections in the country, that will never happen.
Okay. Zulfi and Asad Rahim, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time for this segment of the Newsmakers. I'd like to thank you both so much for being with us. Now, unfortunately, Maiza Hameed wasn't able to join our panel, but she can join us now. She is a former member of the Provincial and National Assembly of Pakistan. She's currently working with the PML-N, the governing party. And Maiza, you know, the PML-N information minister, Tarar, has said that for the country to progress, it must do away with the PTI's presence. I just want to establish if you're actually on the same page there, and is the PML-N behind that statement?
Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. Basically, I am obviously behind the statement because it has a context. The context is that whenever the country is being going on the right path and the democracy is starting to start off with a good start. We've had elections in Pakistan, and those elections people voted for PML-N, and we have a coalition government, and we are on our way to progress. We are on our way to building and rebuilding Pakistan. For that, we require loans. But unfortunately, PTI is a party that from the beginning has a history of disrupting and interrupting democracy. They did it first.
I need you to explain that, because you say your government does have the majority, but during the election, it was the independents who were actually former PTI members or actual PTI members. Right, they did win the majority. So how is it the PTI that's undoing the actual democracy if the people are voting for the PTI?
If people had voted for PTI, then PTI would have been in the government. Unfortunately, it's not in the government.
They couldn't vote for the PTI. The party was taken off the ballot. They had to register as independents.
If they were constitutionally not and legally, their party was not in the right, was not constituted in the right way, that was no one's fault. The point here is basically what the point is that, whenever the fact that 9th May happened where PTI started this destruction of institutions physically.
Maiza, the problem is the courts themselves are now siding with Imran Khan. He's had a number of your cases against him now overturned, and it almost seems that the government is trying to present this case that it's going to save the Pakistani people from themselves, given that so many of them support Imran Khan, and the PML-N seems to think that his party, the PTI, is destroying the democracy and therefore the country. Yet the courts and all of his supporters continue to disagree.
See, the most popular way of coming into power, or the most, if you want to define a popularity, I think in democracy it comes through elections. It comes through votes, and whoever gets more votes, that party comes into power.
Yes, but the PTI got these votes in the last election. Their members, again, were forced to register as independents.
That is debatable. Independents have joined. There are a lot of independents who have joined PML-N also. The point is that if you form government and you've gotten the votes, you need the other party. PTI needs to accept the fact that they've lost the election.
Okay, but even if they do, you still have their leader in jail, and you are still trying to ban the entire party. It doesn't bode well for democracy. And I recognize that this is an ongoing cycle in Pakistan, and you're maybe only doing what was done to your party before, but in the end, no one wins.
Unfortunately, I think that in case of PML-N, there was a lot of political victimization, including the victimization of Maryam Nawaz, who was the daughter of the former prime minister. but that was done by Imran Khan himself. The situation is completely different. You have a party who has targeted Pakistan's institutions, Pakistan army, Pakistan's social fabric, and they claim that they are very popular. If the judges go by the constitution, the decisions would have been different. But if the judges, the honorable judges, or the honorable court is trying to side with the popular opinion, that's a different thing.
Well, they say they are independent and they've
You
been
have
ruling
laws
according
that
to
you
the
have.
Constitution.
I don't think the decision was according to the Constitution, recent one. I think the decision was more on the basis of popularity of the said party. So I feel that Pakistan is progressing, and it should recognize the fact that Constitution is supreme. We need to follow Constitution rather than popular opinion
Okay.
of the people.
Maiza,
We
Hameed,
need to follow laws.
unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. I'd like to thank you so much for being with us on The Newsmakers. Now, beyond the action being taken to ban the PTI, there's also the continuing imprisonment of its leader, Imran Khan. This month, the UN's Working Group on Arbitrary Detention said Khan should be released immediately and unconditionally after it revealed that not only was he being illegally detained, but that his very prosecution was part of a larger campaign of repression meant to harm political opponents. Well, international human rights lawyer Jared Genser worked on Khan's arbitrary detention case, and he joins me now from Washington. Jared, thanks so much for being with us. You know, I want to say congratulations because the UN ruled fully in favor of your arguments, but unfortunately, none of your demands have been met. Khan is still in prison, and now we're seeing these further efforts to ban his party. Do you expect this judgment, this UN opinion rather, to be respected in Pakistan?
Well, look, I mean, this is a definitive interpretation of Pakistan's obligations under international law. And ultimately, it's really only going to be with political pressure and media pressure that the regime in Pakistan will be forced to comply. But I am absolutely confident that ultimately they will be forced to comply because, now it isn't just, Khan's political party or the tens of millions of Pakistanis that supported him in the last election that want him out. Now, the United Nations, as an independent question, has determined he's being held illegally and has demanded his immediate and unconditional release.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned international pressure, but to be honest, the international community has not been very vocal about taking a stand on his position now and even commenting very much on this UN opinion.
Well, look, I mean, I think all of these things take time. Imran Khan undoubtedly should be the prime minister right now today. The majority of Pakistanis would like him to be running the country. And it's obviously a combination of the work of his party and many others within the country, along with international pressure that will ultimately secure his release. There's obviously a lot happening in the world. So ultimately, it's going to require a lot of work to compel the regime to let him out. But my own experience, having worked more than 50 cases like this from start to finish over my career, is that when you have justice and truth on your side, that ultimately those responsible will be held accountable.
Right. There is a lot going on in the world, but I also mentioned earlier that this is a kind of continuation of a seemingly endless cycle in Pakistan, where political adversaries try, however ruthlessly they can, to really just take each other down. The problem is that Pakistanis will tell you the deep state or the military establishment is actually to blame. And in that case, applying international law in particular is kind of futile. What do you make of that as a lawyer, and what does it say about the fate of Imran Khan?
Look, I've spent my entire career representing people who everyone said it will be impossible to release. And virtually all of them I've ultimately succeeded. And it isn't necessarily because of my exceptional skills, but because of the wide array of support that people like Imran Khan attract, both domestically and internationally. So I definitely agree with you that it's going to be a challenge. But the reality is that no dictator ever releases a political prisoner voluntarily, especially when they are a direct risk to that person's rule. They only do it when they have to. And what you need to do is to go after the Pakistani regime every way you possibly can. Whether it be looking at sanctions, whether it's looking at political pressure at the UN or other regional organizations, whether it be highlighting the injustice with which Khan is being treated. His wife has also been imprisoned. It's worth noting. Literally, you have a situation in Pakistan where Khan himself has been facing more than 150 politically motivated criminal cases. And just days before the election last January, he was convicted on 3 more cases. And on these 3 cases, he got 10 years, 14 years, and 7 years in prison, respectively.
Right.
So, I mean, it isn't just that he's merely arbitrarily detained. The scale and the scope of the injustice is palpable and will ultimately attract the kind of international pressure that's necessary to get him out.
Jared Genser. That will have to be the final word for this edition of The Newsmakers. I'd like to thank you so much for being with us. Great to have you, and thank our viewers, of course, for joining us as well. Remember, you can follow us on X, and do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey. We'll see you next time.